What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Second Chance Live series. I'm your host, Darryll Stinson. I am now officially an author. You see the book back there? Oh, that's right there.
It's right there.
That's my book. I'll put it up there just so y'all can see it. And guess what? You can go order it. It'll help you discover your purpose beyond sports, find your highest purpose, live more fulfilled, process what you've been through, because we believe that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you. I don't care if you're Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, or what's another Michael that does sports, Brooke?
Oh,
Michael
I am blanking on the
Jeffrey,
words.
Michael
Yeah.
Jeffrey. Yeah, the race car driver.
Gosh.
Your best
All I
days
can
are
think,
always ahead of you.
I was thinking Michael Keaton. He doesn't play sports.
Who's that?
He's an actor.
Dang. Well, if you're Michael Keaton, still your best days are ahead of you, not behind you.
Yeah.
And the book will help you. And 100% of all the proceeds within the first week, which today would be the last day, I believe. Right, team? I think, right? That they can access the bonuses and that we will be giving away all of the proceeds to our inner city youth sports scholarship fund. I don't know why I'm blanking right now. But guys, I'm excited to share my guest with you today. Brooke, please, so I don't butcher your last name like I did Amber's. How do you pronounce it?
Bierhaus. It's
Bierhaus.
very
I knew
German.
it.
Yes.
All right. So can I just call you Brooke? Is that okay?
Yeah, that is perfectly fine.
I am known to butcher people's last names. So let me tell y'all who Brooke is. Brooke is an award-winning documentary filmmaker, and she already agreed to make a film on my life. So I really appreciate that.
Put me
I'm
on
lying.
the spot here.
I'm lying. Photographer and visual storyteller. She's also creator of the feature-length documentary The Connected Cup. Brooke specializes in narrative-driven storytelling with an immersive approach. The Connected Cup follows the global language of coffee and tea as a universal means of human connection, and how clean water plays a vital role. See, I'm getting my coffee. I told my wife to grab that for me. How clean water plays a vital role in this fabric of the human experience. Filmed across 9 countries and in 9 languages to further the idea of a universal language.
It's a mouthful. Yeah.
And here's what I will ask you guys to do. We are going to run this video clip. And while the video clip plays, I want you to think about questions. I want you to host a watch party. I want you to grab a cup of coffee, sit in on this conversation as we talk about sports, as we talk about human connection and all the amazing things that she learned from this documentary that they created. It's so interesting. So watch this video and we'll be right back.
My name is Brooke Bierhaus, and for the last 5 years, I've traveled across 22 countries with one goal in mind: to prove the global language of connection that can be found in a cup of coffee or tea. What I've uncovered is a raw, tangible, and ethnological connection that spans centuries of human interaction. But why should you care? Because these drinks impact all of us. Stories of conservation, economic sustainability, geopolitical history, current news, and quality of life are all tied into one simple cup. If you join me on this journey, I can promise you one thing: you will never look at coffee or tea the same again.
So cool. Look at that.
Thanks.
Wish I had a highlight reel like that. So if you guys aren't already fascinated, then you should be, because she's amazing. And I had an opportunity to be a guest on her podcast that she co-hosts with Don. When your sports story ends, what is it called again?
When your sport ends.
When your sport ends, that's right.
Yep, you got it.
And they were great hosts. Obviously they did their research, and now I know why. Documentary.
Yeah.
And I really liked them, and we just stayed connected. And I know we're gonna do some cool stuff together somehow, some way. So Brooke, I'll stop talking now and let people actually listen to the guests who we brought on to speak. So,
You mean I'm not just supposed to look pretty? What?
tell them a little bit about your sports career, like a little bit about it, because I'm so fascinated and I want to get into some of your documentary work.
Thanks. Well, I think I always feel like I have to precursor my sports story with my collegiate sports story with the fact that I did not perform as well as I would have liked to. I did not reach my potential, in my opinion, and that's something I live with. And so I went to University of Iowa. I ran track and cross country for 3 years. My pretty much my sophomore and freshman year, I was injured, didn't really get to compete, put a lot of stress on my body. So honestly, my sports story collegiately is pretty lackluster, which was something that on the podcast, When Your Sport Ends, is a reason that Don and I really wanted to create a show where we could talk about that, because what's it like when you still have that tied athletic identity, but you don't reach your potential or you don't feel like you did? And so I've been working through that. And that's something that Darryll, when we had him on the show, I mean, we talked at length at that. And so he knows that very well, and that emotion. And but before that, running was my first love. I mean, it was everything. I That breakup was the hardest breakup of my life. I past boyfriends, like, nothing compares to that breakup with running and competing. And so yeah, I think it's been the highs and lows of sports, and then what do you do after? And I mean, there's so many layers. We can go into this. Sorry, I get so excited about all of it. So
I
tell
love
me
it.
what direction you want me to go.
Well, we can go multiple directions, but I have to ask you the $1,000,000 question is, have
Yeah.
you ordered your book yet? That's the question.
I have. That proceeds, yes, I am on it. I wish I could say that I read it though before this, like I wish it was here in my hands and I could have been like,
It
oh,
just
yeah,
released. Give yourself time. And
I know.
apparently, y'all been ordering so many books that Amazon is having trouble fulfilling it for some reason. We had to call them yesterday. They wouldn't let people order more than 4. I'm like, there's no way you're out of stock. You're Amazon. And so we got it figured out. I think they were computer glitch or something. So, anyways, I'm looking for something right now. I'm not distracted. I am.
No, you're good.
This is what I love about talking to former athletes is you get it, and you mentioned something that's in the book, and it's this concept of letting go of the potential. And I talk about that being a means of how you process the end of your athletic career.
Mhm.
And so I was going to read an excerpt from the book, but while I stall, and coffee's here.
There it is.
Thank you so much.
Here, let me get mine. We can cheers.
Now we got human connection. Come on.
Yes, cheers.
Thank you.
I love it.
So while I look at my little excerpt from the book, I want you to talk about it. I want you to talk about this aspect of potential, and this might be the whole episode because it's one of the things I don't hear enough former athletes talk about enough is this regret that we live with when we don't feel like we reached that full potential like we could have during the game. And I know that's part of your story, so I'd love for you to just talk about what did that actually feel like, and how so? Was there people that you compared yourself to? Like, did you know you held back? Did you not finish the line? Like, what do you mean by you didn't reach your full potential?
It's interesting because for me, not reaching my potential has led to really going after what I want to do and outside of athletics and feeling like I can reach my potential, quote unquote, like in that realm. But for me, I don't think that I was getting trained for the actual event that I should be doing. And I was I never really could say no, and I didn't really speak up for myself. So, it's not like a game or maybe in the position that you'd want to play. But for track, it was like, I'm 6 foot. I am not a distance runner's typical body. Like I always got mistook for, well, I did long jump for a while, but I always got mistook for a high jumper or heptathlete. And I would have loved to do the heptathlon. I would have loved to do more sprint focus, maybe 800. And I did a little bit. And, as you're hearing me say this, it's a little bit of in the past, like regret, but it doesn't feel like regret to me. It's more of remembering okay, I had a lot of qualities and skills that could have transferred, but I didn't speak up, and that's on me. And by the time I spoke up, it was too late. I was my body was just.
What do you mean? What do you mean by the time you spoke up?
My junior year, I went in to talk to the sprint coach at Iowa, and I was just like, it's my junior year. I have 2 more. I used to do the 800. I trained for steeplechase, so I have hurdle experience. I long jumped 18:10 was my best, which is it's a good one for a heptathlon and everything. And I was like, but I I'm not training for that, and I want to be in your program, and I really, really want to do it, but I'm on the distance side. And he was like, you're kind of too, it's too, like, you should have been starting when you were a freshman, honestly. And I was like,
Mm,
damn it. And by that time, I think I was kind of like grasping for something that
mm,
I could stay and be an athlete and identify myself there, because I was scared. Like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to be a college student. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Right. So I was like, what am I going to do? And it just felt, I mean, at that point, I think it was best that I let my body rest. I put it through a lot of stress, mentally, physically.
yeah.
And yeah, it felt like, okay, you're going to have to do something else. Like, it's too late.
Yeah, yeah. I found the excerpt in the book,
Read it.
but what you're saying is so important, and I know, and I love how you've already reframed it and turned it into something positive that feels what you're doing now.
Hmm.
But like, here's what I wrote in the book. Okay, so I'm talking. It's so this is just an excerpt. I was talking about me and my potential. I said, I found myself trying to explain to everybody how good of an athlete I could have been. I would tell them about my best games and rare athleticism. I love telling people the story about how I was fast enough to challenge Antonio Brown to a race and was competitive. The truth was that he blasted me at the get off, but I gained I gained ground when my long stride kicked in. Oh, and of course, I would love to brag about the times I beat 2013 number one NFL draft pick Eric Fisher in pass rush drills. I made sure everyone knew how good I could have been. It was pathetic. I would talk about how I was a better athlete than every professional athlete I played against: Eric Fisher, Frank Zamo, Draymond Green, Brandon Jennings, and more. I told people who cared and those who didn't care. I told athletes and non-athletes. I briefed people who asked about my sports career and people who didn't even ask at all. Why? Because it helped me cope with the pain of it being over. Somehow telling other people how I dunked on somebody who was in the pros or outperformed someone who was doing well in college made me feel as if I were still competing. I was subconsciously trying to trick myself into believing I had lived up to my potential.
Mm.
That subconscious mind game shifted when I started to hear from my former athletes that I did have the potential to be that great. But yet I still kept telling people about my potential. And I'll skip. It said, then it hit me. It wasn't other people I was trying to convince. It was myself. I was trying to believe that I was a great athlete just because I had the potential to dominate in sports. But my potential was just that, potential.
Boom. Order the book. Order the book.
So maybe not as poetic as your bio, but but it's so important. And I honestly think that it's one message that I really want people, especially former athletes, to get about potential. And the way that we translate that to current athletes is by helping them understand that you have an opportunity. You have to be grateful for it. You have to give it everything you got. You have to speak up for yourself. And when you do that, you won't live with this regret or have to take that negative energy and reframe it. Right. So anyways, let's get into this documentary. Right. We can talk sports all day and maybe we'll come back there.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in your work now. And man, what have you learned from traveling the world?
Oh, man. Yeah. So part of this too, and this is I feel like a very athlete mentality. So the film took 3.5 years. I traveled across 22 countries, like it said, and focused on 9 when I was filming. But I wanted to stay in the travel world, and I was like working. I wasn't out having too much fun. Like, I had fun, but I was working. I'd go to bed early. Like, I had my early shoot dates and filming and producing. So those 3.5 years, I was mostly, I would say about 90% of the time, a one-woman film crew. So getting film permits, trying to figure out people to interview, do it in the most authentic way. And then I wasn't expecting to edit the film myself, but I ended up gaining in those 3.5 years experience editing, because I was doing NGO, nonprofit videos and things of that nature for free stay or room and board somewhere that was subsidized. And I did this film totally on a budget, but it, yeah, it was kind of like a one-woman film crew, which is a little bit unheard of with a feature. But I learned that I can do that, right? I tried to collaborate. It was mostly, and I did, it was just mostly budget wise, like needing to be a one woman film crew and have those talents. So now I've got all of those qualities and skills, and I feel like the drive to do that 1000% came from being an athlete and from running. And that time alone was probably from all the years of doing like 90-minute runs by myself and have to have my own mindset going on and just, be okay with who I was. Yeah, so it was a big undertaking, but I'm really proud of like how it came out. It's on Amazon Prime right now. It's also on Vimeo, and we're working on a really cool new way to watch it with cryptocurrency and blockchain. So hopefully that comes out soon.
Really
But
cool.
yeah, but
So like, who just wakes up one day and says, you know what? I want to look at how coffee helps us create human connection and travel the world and do this by myself for 3 years. Like where did that inspiration come from?
yeah, I was working. I thought it so from the very get-go of going into journalism school and everything, I had in my head I want to be a National Geographic photographer, pretty much like a lot of photographers do. And so for me to do that, my first gig right out of college was a photography instructor in Iceland. So I had people come for 2 weeks at a time, and they'd stay with me. I'd teach them. We'd go around and see all the
Dude, my
sites.
life seems so boring now. Like, I
No,
just
hey, no comparing.
to
Stop
start it over,
it.
to write a new book. I'm
No,
sorry. I'm
it's
just feeling bad about my life right now. Go ahead.
no, stop it. So from there I would get people from all over the world coming to have this time with me in this house for 2 weeks, and it was through a program. So it wasn't me that was like bringing people in. I was just one of the instructors. It was Iceland that brought people there. Let's be real. And so they would learn photography, and I noticed that on the very morning that people would get into the house, they'd be a little bit apprehensive, weren't sure how to act, and some English was their second language for the majority of them. And when I made coffee or said, "Oh, I have coffee. Would anyone want coffee or tea? We can sit down," people started to relax. And so I think that was an initial just seed planted in my head. And then I took a job as a wildlife photographer in the Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica and started seeing how, like, my Spanish wasn't great. And at the end of the day, we'd have a little cafecito and sit down, and it would be Spanish only. And so I noticed that I could.
Are you bilingual too?
I am not as fluent as my sister who lives in Madrid, but
Uh, Dang, I suck.
stop.
I hate interviewing people who are more interesting than me.
I No, I think it's because that feeling whenever you just feel like there's after sports sometimes too. I felt like my reasoning for not traveling, my reasoning for like not starting a YouTube channel or doing films was because I have practice. I'm a runner. Like that's, after I finish athletics, then I'll do this. So when I finished, I went to DC, started an internship. Like I just went go, go, go until, you know, something came to fruition. And so that was a lot of the drive. But back to like the whole reasoning, I feel like the very last sort of hurdle, I suppose, or last like breakthrough where I thought I have to do this film or I never will, was in Costa Rica after I reached out to Cafe de Monteverde in Monteverde, Costa Rica, and they are amazing. They're in the film, the very first country.
See, understood everything.
Yeah.
Costa Rica.
Perfect. Yes, pura vida. Yep. And and from there, I mean, honestly, I was just going to I didn't want to do a film about the production of coffee. I wanted to see how it impacted a community. I wanted to see what those connecting factors were. And being in Monteverde, they were really the reason that I started doing a full feature. And it kind of just took life from there. I sold my car. I said, I'm going to bet on myself. Let's do it. And I had a family that supported me, right? Like I had a big support team, and that is part of the reason I was able to do it. But all those little factors, coffee's always been a soft spot for me. It reminds me of my mom. It reminds me of waking up early, going to practices, teammates afterwards. It reminds me of my dad. Yeah, it's always been a very close tie, but I don't really, I mean, I love the taste, but I'm not a snob. I'll drink like, gas station coffee if someone wants to talk to me out in the parking lot, right? Like,
So where have you had the best coffee from?
Oh, Ethiopia, hands down.
Really?
Yes, it
Mm.
was. I love the act of the coffee ceremonies in Ethiopia. It's 3 rounds. They roast the coffee right there, and it's just such a. It's almost like you just take your blanket off or this armor that you wear around in the world. You just take it off. You sit there and you have 3 rounds of coffee, and you know that you have that amount of time, and it gets weaker with each pour.
Mm.
So by the third one, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like this is some weak ass coffee, but
I love it. Man, what would you say if like what did you what how have you changed since how did this experience change you?
and that's a great question because I'm right back in Ethiopia with this answer. I So Ethiopia was the fifth country that I visited, and I had 4 more planned for the film, and I had another year and a half worth of filming. And at that point, I had a translator with me. I had a wonderful travel company that was totally on board took a chance really with me with the film and showcasing what I want to do in the wild coffee forest and really making sure I understood the culture in Ethiopia before anything else. And I had all of this, but I still had this feeling of like, I don't want to take anything from other people. I don't want to take help. Like I was framing it as taking. And so when families would say, please come in, have coffee with us, I was like, no, 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 it's okay. I don't want to like impose. I'd rather not. I felt like I was, they're sharing their stories with me and I couldn't really give anything else. And I didn't want to feel like, I don't know, like I owed them something or they owed me something. And so I really just kind of kept to myself. And it was finally when my friend Muli, he was there and filming, and he's Ethiopian. And he was telling me, by not taking someone's help or act of like a gift, you're really not allowing for them to feel good, right? Like you're not
Mhm.
letting them have that feeling of I gave her something, or like when you give a present, don't you feel great? And I thought, yeah, I do. I love giving people things like advice or, presents, whatever it is. And so once I reframed that as, okay, I'm not taking from them, I'm allowing someone to give me this gift, right? Then all of these moments just really changed. And I feel like I still have a hard time doing that now. I feel uncomfortable when people want to, offer something to me and they don't want anything in exchange. I'm like, wait, this is a weird concept. But I'm trying to be better. And I think it's really opened up a lot of interesting relationships and opportunities because you just take people at their word and really allow for those connections to happen.
Yeah, yeah, so powerful. And I think I've never met a person who had the gift of giving or the heart to give who didn't struggle simultaneously as receiving, right? And I think it's just
Right.
because we want to desire to give so much, but we do have to continue to let that cycle flow and let other people experience the kindness that we then take to the world. And everything comes to us, but through us, right? For
Right. I love
others.
that.
And so I've had to learn too, and I'm still in process of learning how to receive. And it's good. It's one reason why our business model was for profit. I was like, I ain't asking nobody for money. I'm just gonna make my own money. And then
Yeah.
now that it's not about Darryll, and we've got a scale and we want to reach more people and serve more people than what I can hustle and serve on my own. And we need grant support and donors to do that. And so it's making me have to share the vision and ask. And I hate every second of it, but I
Yeah.
have to reframe it and tell myself, nope, same thing that you had to tell. You're not taking from people, you're giving them an opportunity to do with their money what they can't do with their time, and on and on. So
Yeah.
I'd love to just kind of figure out like what's next for you.
Yeah, that is a great question. So before COVID, it would have looked very different had you asked me that question. But right now, I'm getting my master's in cultural anthropology at University of Arkansas, which I'm
Wow.
really, really excited about. It fits really well with me, especially for grant opportunities. When I am trying to get funding for filmmaking, a lot of my topics and stories are anthropology focused, but I don't have a background in that. I'm a journalist and I have a journalism degree, and so I think sometimes funders see that and don't know exactly how, can they put their money towards it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I think the master's will be a great addition to it. So I'm doing that and working on a few different short documentaries right now and got the podcast and really trying to,
Yes, yes, you can do a
yeah.
documentary on the book. You didn't have
Yeah.
to ask. It's fine. Yes, you know.
Come on. There's got to be a sequel. There's got to people want the even more.
The movie, man. Somebody,
Yeah.
literally, I was on an interview today. Somebody asked me, they were like, if you were to do a movie on your life, they said, well, I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when there's a movie on your life, who would you get to play it? And I said, well, if I had a son, I would want it to be my son, but I don't have a son. So I guess it's got to be me. It's like, I said, Will Smith did it, so I'm going to do it. And
Yeah.
then we laughed. So see, this is the second conversation
You're making it
about the
happen.
movie. So there we go. Just
Fruition.
saying. Just going to take
Yeah.
a sip of my coffee right now.
No, I think that's important. Putting it into the world.
Anyways, man, your life is interesting.
Thanks.
Are you not at live what's the word I'm looking for? Are you not able to tell us what the other documentaries are you're working on?
So one I'm not allowed to because it's a series, but it's kind of stemming from the Connected Cup, which I'm really, really excited about. And I'm really turning my vision local and, well, national, I suppose, but also local. The one that I'm working on, we're supposed to be filming this week, is with the Quapaw Nation, and we're looking at the way bison have regenerated the agriculture and the soil for the last decade, and the importance of the bison to the Quapaw tribe and to a lot of Indigenous First Nation Native Americans. And so I'm really excited about that and to really follow that narrative. And I think it's important to really talk about how we can save our planet, but also talk about the people who have been trying to implement these same ways of saving the planet and offering new solutions for the last centuries, right?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Really phenomenal.
Thanks.
My life is boring. So that's all I can think about right now.
It's nonstop with documentaries, though. You've always got to try to find something and find funding, and so it's
I am a nerd for documentaries. I am.
good.
I watch them all, and I admittedly I have not watched yours, so we get to be tied because you haven't read my book yet.
Yep, there it is.
So, and I know that means you didn't order it right away because there's other people who have already read it. Just saying, I can
know.
tell.
I know.
Anyways, let me not make you feel guilty. So I will. We're even. Okay.
Yeah.
So I will watch the documentary.
If you're on Sunday, so it's kind of exciting. The Global Coffee Festival is doing a virtual free screening. It's on their Global Coffee Festival website.
Sweet
Event to watch the Connected Cup. So if anyone
didn't know there was
interested,
a Global Coffee Festival.
It is the first one because of the pandemic. So usually they have New York, Paris, Milan, where else? LA. They do coffee festivals throughout the year. And so this year they just combined everybody and they were like, let's do a global one. Pandemic. And yeah.
So cool. Here's a question for you. So you won an award for this documentary. And that means that you had to out compete some people, right? You had to do a good job. If someone else is inspiring to be a filmmaker, what would you say are some skills that they should develop in order to become an award-winning film producer or maker or writer?
Yeah, I'd say you got to develop a thick skin right away, because if someone tells you they don't, I'm not going to fund this, I don't understand it, you can't take it to heart, because if you really, really believe in it and you love what you do, you'll find the person who also believes in it and says, I want to fund it, I believe in it, reshape it. I got so many rejection letters from grants, from film festivals. It's like, it hurts every time, but at the same time, it kind of fuels you in a little bit of a way. So I think developing the thick skin is definitely the first thing. And the second one being like, stay creative and figure out what you want to say. Because there's plenty of people with a camera. There's plenty of people out there saying whatever they feel like, right? But like, what is important to you, and what do you want to say, and who do you want to talk to, and what mark do you want to leave? And that's true with probably any profession, but I think in filmmaking, it's extremely important, because if you don't know what you're saying, other people are going to figure it out for you, and you might be in a sticky situation, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. What would you say, my last like really two questions that I wanted to make sure I asked you today was number one, like this documentary that you have, but then also this podcast, they don't seem to be connected. And I just be
Right.
curious to know, like, man, what interests you about both? Like, how do you connect the two if you do? And then the last question I was just gonna ask you, well, let's do that one first, and I'll save the last one for last. How about that?
Okay, cool. Um, I think for a very long time, because I didn't live up to, or I wasn't an Olympian, I wasn't a Big Ten conference champ, I felt like I couldn't really identify as a college athlete. So I kept that away from a lot of people. I would meet them, and instead of saying, oh, yeah, I ran track at Iowa, or I ran cross country at Iowa, I was a steeplechase national champion when I was younger. It's like, instead of saying anything, I'm like, yeah, I run, like, right.
Yeah.
And it became this weird complex for me. And I, I didn't talk about it much. And then I met my co-host, Don, and he and I really started diving into this. And when the Believe Podcast Network was asking about shows, I was like, I got one. And the transition out from athletics is something that I want to dive into. I want to talk to more people who have had that experience, and I want to learn about my own experience along the way. So, and Don was the same. He's never podcasted before. He's been learning along the way with the hosting, but it's just a conversation. We want it to feel like you're talking to a friend. And so this allows me to try something. I think it helps me to get out of my head because there's less at stake. There's less pressure to be what I feel like because it's in my field, but it's not completely in my field. So it allows me to play a little bit, which is really nice. And then documentary filmmaking and the Connected Cup, coffee, like all of that. I do it for free, right? If that is what it has to be, then I would figure out a different way to make money and do it on the side. But I'm lucky that I can combine my passions to be financially stable and to do what I love. And I think that I like to have multiple things going on. Not too many because then I get distracted, but I like to have multiple things going on so I can turn my attention there when I'm feeling exhausted in one area and just allow myself to stay creative and curious.
Yeah. So here's my last question I wanted to make sure I asked you is, your work is inspiring, and obviously your podcast, I encourage people to go check that out as well. There's a great guest on there, this guy named Darryll that
He has a book out too.
but it's people. What I've noticed about people who are inspiring is there's typically something driving them.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is driving you, and what's motivating you?
Yeah, I think I never really had the person that I wanted to see on TV or the person that I wanted to see. Like the people behind the camera sometimes are the ones that like I'm very drawn to, but they're not ever in front and you don't know their stories. And I think for me, I have a tendency to be a little bit like superficial. I love being on camera, so I'm like, oh, it's fine. But I also love being behind there. And I feel like when I was growing up, I thought I had to do one or the other. And I think that my driving force is to like really show that you can do both. You are capable of learning new skills. You don't have to just be a pretty face in front of the camera. Like you can figure out what you want to do and what you want to say. And I think it's just sort of trying to empower the next wave of like filmmakers, male, female, and binary. I want everyone to feel like you can be represented and you don't need someone else to like, tell you how to do it. So I think that's my driving force, really.
Well, thank you for telling me that I don't just have to be a pretty face on camera. That made me feel good about myself.
You can write the book. You can be on camera. You do whatever you want.
Man, if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, man, this girl is awesome. How can I connect with her and learn from her and follow her work? What would you say to them?
I would say, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you on Instagram. You can find me at It's Brooke Bierhaus. You can also find the podcast at When Your Sport Ends. The website for that is theconnectedcup.com. Perfect timing. And I'm on YouTube too, but it's mostly just my shorts. So if you want to see those, like they're special to me too. If you type my name into Google, you'll find all good things, I'm pretty sure. So you can also look me up that way.
You did not look very sure about that. So now
Like,
everybody says, what? What's on Google? What do I need to
Yeah.
find? Oh man, I can't thank you enough. I think a good note to end on is, you host the podcast that deals with the very thing that we are in the industry of doing, is helping athletes transition. Based upon all the guests that you've interviewed and all the things that you learned, what is some advice that you would share with those athletes who are transitioning, especially those during this pandemic whose careers got ripped from them and it wasn't their choice or their fault?
Gosh, that is heavy. And I think the only reason I'm able to actually answer this is because I had a long road trip the other day, and I was Don and I came up with this question together because you're like, what did we learn the most? So luckily you're on the same brain wave as us.
See, first the documentary, now this.
Yep. Just saying. Yeah, I think honestly, be kind to yourself. If that is really the one sentiment that resonates a lot with our guests, is that, like, as athletes, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and I know that's easier said than done, but if you can find time to just remember the parts of yourself that you love that aren't tied towards athletics, like, just really be kind to yourself and, like, know that this isn't easy. I mean, you can read Darryl's book to figure out how freaking hard it is. You can
That was the correct answer. No,
Yeah,
just kidding.
But you know what? Like, you're not alone. You're really not. And there's so many people that were athletes that have gone on to have incredible careers that aren't always tied to athletics. Sometimes they are, but, like, be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Be kind to yourself and do good deeds. That's what my mentor taught me.
It's
Yes, and then
good.
go get the book. Who Am I After Sports? Today is the last day to get access to all of the replays of the interviews that we've been doing and the ones that we will do. To get access to my private interview with David Meltzer, and I tell people this, and I'm not saying this because it's my interview. Like, I follow David a lot and I listen to a lot of his content, but my interview is the best one I've seen. It just is. Like, there's not because I was asking all these deep, profound questions. He was in a peak state. He did a really good job. And so, like, you get access to that. You get access to the ebook. You get access to the first 5 lessons of my newly filmed and produced Purpose Made Profitable course. And so, lots of bonuses and giveaways were valued at over a couple of $100, and you get it for the cost of a book. Plus, all the proceeds by the end of the day go to support charity. So, we believe in giving back. Brooke, you're awesome. You're amazing. And you're very interesting to talk to. And I like interviewing you. And we should talk more. I want everybody to go follow your stuff. And I got an exciting guest to introduce you to. His name is Taj. Now, Taj is a transition expert. He's got a new book that just released as well, and it's on the same topic. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare whose is better, since we're athletes. Just kidding.
Hey, I'm going to listen in on that one.
Mine's just better. No, Taj is a great guy. I can't wait to share his story and promote his book as well. Because he's, I haven't read the book yet, but I did get one, and I can't wait to just share that. I always say that this way, like, as of now, there's no competition in this market because it's so underserved. There's so many athletes that are transitioning out and they're asking for help. So thank you so much for your time. Love to have you on. Tell Don we got to get him on too. And we appreciate your time. Any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
Nope. Just enjoy your coffees today, everybody, and reach out to me if you have questions and order the book.
There we go. Yep. Thank you. See you later, guys.
Bye.